For my AP US history class, I had to read this book. It's about John Wilkes Booth, the guy who assassinated Abe Lincoln. I enjoyed it. It's very well written, and it does a good job of telling the story of Booth's escape. I was assigned to create something that shows I read the book, so I figured I'd kill two birds with one stone by making a video and putting it on YouTube since I haven't done that in a while. John Wilkes Booth was an actor. He shot Abraham Lincoln in Ford's Theater, yada yada yada, common knowledge. We're going to be talking about the more interesting details, such as the fact that Booth had a mustache and the events that took place after the initial assassination. What's interesting about the term assassination is that you can only be assassinated if you're famous, otherwise it's just murder. I always wondered just how famous you had to be in order for your murder to count as assassination. Booth wasn't just a one-man operation. He conspired with Lewis Powell, David Harold, George Atzerodt. We'll just call him Georgie. Georgie was assigned to kill Vice President Andrew Johnson, Powell was assigned to kill Secretary of State William H. Seward, and Harold was to be Powell's guide. They all did a pretty shabby job, though, so we tend to skip over them and give Booth all the attention, which is why I don't know how to pronounce Georgie's name. I suppose we'll start with the obvious bit, how Booth assassinated Lincoln. Lincoln was minding his own business, watching a play up in his box, when Booth snuck up behind him and shot him in the head. Booth proceeded to jump out of the box. Quite the fall, he hurt his leg, run onto the stage, and shout some silliness about the South being avenged. Really, John? You just killed the president, and you're going to go up on stage and shout about it? Use your critical thinking. He then made his way out of the theater, down the street, over the bridge, to freedom for 12 days. Meanwhile, William H. Seward was bedridden due to wounds he'd suffered from a carriage accident. Harold led Powell to Seward's home. Powell talked his way up the stairs of the house under the pretense of delivering medicine. Then, when he wasn't granted access to the Secretary of State's room, he attacked William's son, Frederick. When the servant ran outside screaming for help, Harold, who had been waiting outside, chickened out. Powell fought some more people, finally managing to get next to the Secretary of State's bed. He wasn't very good with his dagger, though, because he missed Seward on his first 2 tries. The wound he actually did manage to inflict wasn't even fatal. Meanwhile, again, poor Georgie, who wasn't even entirely on board with the plan to begin with, got drunk and never even tried to assassinate Andrew Johnson. Booth and Powell, only half of the original group, met up outside of town in the woods. They made a stop at Surratt Tavern to pick up some paraphernalia, and then went to the home of Dr. Mudd to get Booth's leg fixed up. They spent the night there, and then continued to the home of Samuel Cox, who let them hide out in the woods by his house while he contacted his foster brother, Thomas A. Jones, a Confederate agent. After a few days, Booth and Harold were provided with a boat. In this boat, they were meant to cross the Potomac River into Virginia, but, and this should really come to no surprise since they haven't exactly shown a great deal of intelligence thus far, they accidentally paddled upstream and landed back on the Maryland side of the river again. They finally figured themselves out and made it to Virginia the next day. They were supplied with horses and sent to Richard H. Garrett's farm. Garrett didn't know that he was housing Booth, who had been introduced to him as James W. Boyd. Lieutenant Colonel Everton Conger and some Northern soldiers caught up to them at the Garretts. Harold surrendered, but Booth refused to come out of the tobacco barn. As a simple solution, the soldiers set the barn on fire. Sergeant Boston Corbett shot him in the neck while he was inside the fire. His body was dragged down to Garrett's porch, where he died a few hours later. Thus ends the tale of John Wilkes Booth. To my history teacher, I hope this was A-worthy. It was quite a bit of work. To any other viewers, I hope you enjoyed the story. If you liked this format, please tell me in the comments. Until next time.